So today we're going to talk about the boundaries between HR and leadership. Sometimes leaders come to us and they say they want us to do that, and I'm wondering, is it our job or theirs? That's all coming up right now. Hi there, I'm Andrea Adams, and this is the HR Hub. On the show, we talk about anything related to HR. I encourage you to subscribe to the show or podcast. Keep learning from my guests. Today, my guest is Pam Schmidt. Pam is a leadership and organization development consultant. She also does this type of work with a large health organization. We were chatting, we met, a while back, and we're chatting about this. I thought it would be an interesting angle to discuss with us in HR because it comes up all the time. Hi, Pam. How are you?
Hi, Andrea. I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. All right, Pam. So you're a fairly senior HR practitioner. Actually, you clarified before we even started recording that you're not actually an HR practitioner, but in my mind, close enough. And the related experience is definitely close enough. So you've found leaders coming to you over your career wanting you to do something. And of course, that happens in HR all the time, like, fix this thing for me. Can you tell me about your experience?
You used a key word there that they often come to me for or an OD team for. And it's often when something's happening on their team and they're not sure what to do, but they know things aren't working well. And they really come asking me to fix something. And they will often also come with a solution. So my job then is to actually have a conversation with them, do a bit of a discovery, ask them what's going on. Tell me more about this. What are you seeing? What are you noticing? What are the behaviors? When did it start? Doing a deeper dive into what's really going on to understand, and then be able to figure out a way to support and help them through what it is that they're feeling challenged by.
If you were to lump it into buckets of things that they come to you about, is anything coming to mind?
Yes. There's a couple things. I've been asked about, there's been some sort of a structure change or a process change, and now two teams are having to interact or collaborate in a way that they haven't before. And they want me to come in and do some work around role clarity. I'll probably use a lot of air quotes because I use that in terms of the language that they're using. That often is for me a bit of a red flag. They'll come asking for a session on role clarity. And again, tell me a little bit more about what's going on and tell me what your relationship is like with the leader on the other team that you're needing to collaborate. What's that like? So they'll come around role clarity are words that I hear often. I hear team building or team development is often another bit of a code word and a bit of a red flag in terms of me needing to do some deeper digging with them as to what's really going on. There's also other times when it's really about we need to bring people together, and it's completely well within my role and scope to support them on that, bringing, whether it's a slice of the system together into a room to really do some great discovery work, process work around an issue that they're facing collectively, that they need that knowledge and information from the participants to be able to formulate some kind of a plan. And that is really where as a leader, you get the most value from somebody like me coming in and supporting you with that.
Those two topics you picked, those two buckets, the role clarity one and the team function one, as red flags. I love that because those are ones that come up all the time. Okay. If you were to say, and maybe this is just getting too granular and it's too specific, but let's say role clarity, for example, that you say that's a red flag. A red flag, what is typically going on underneath?
What I have found is typically going on underneath, I think there's a few things. My question is, what is the relationship like with the other leader on the team?
You mentioned that.
Are you aligned? Are you aligned? Are you clear? What is your relationship like? Because if a system is a fractal. And so if it's not working well down here, it's not working well up here either. And so for me, it's always, let's start up here. Let's have you as leaders figure out your relationship. Let me help you get clear as to what you think your pieces of work are, where there's clear distinction between your role, and where there is overlap. And then let's take that. Then let's take that for you as leaders to your team and say, have we got this right? Does this make sense that this lives with you specifically? And this makes sense that this lives with you specifically? Yes. Is there agreement and alignment around that? Now let's have the conversation about that gray zone, because I do think it's a challenge for people. Collaboration isn't always easy. So, and I think especially coming out of the pandemic, people don't have a lot of emotional reserve yet. And so it's harder. And so that takes more energy to be in collaboration. And I think that's also why I've noticed such an increase in the request for role clarity. People really want that delineation because they don't have the energy to actually get the clarity together around how do we collaborate.
Okay, that was amazing. Then teamwork. What's that a red flag for?
What I have noticed often around that is a leader will come and say, I think we just need some team building or some team development. Things haven't been working quite so well. And again, I ask some of those questions, and really what often ends up happening is that there is somebody who is either underperforming or, more challenging, somebody who's a high performer, but who's creating a toxic environment on the team. And so through that conversation then with the leader, is I help them really understand that it's actually, and I probably wouldn't use these words with them, but it's actually irresponsible for me to support them in bringing that team together to really performance manage somebody. And so the conversation then that I have with them is around the expectations that the team has of them as a leader to actually deal with that person, and that it is within their role and scope to set clear expectations with somebody. The underperformer tends to be easier in some respects because there's clarity. They're not performing. And so it's, and then I advise them to work with their HR consultant around processes and what's available to support them in terms of either internal leadership development or coaching or whatever that might be. And as a leader, how to work with that and get clarity around what their expectations are and have that conversation with the support of their HR person. The more challenging one is the high performer that's creating that toxic environment. And that conversation then with that leader is often about, they might be that high performer, and part of their performance is actually how they behave and interact with the rest of their team. That is part of their performance. And so if they are interacting and functioning in such a way that is negatively impacting the rest of the team, that is part of their performance, not just the deliverables and the task. That their behaviors, how they show up and are interacting with others, is part of their performance. And so that needs to be also part of the expectation setting.
Yeah. Speaking from experience, that's a very hard expectation setting because it has to happen. But, in sympathy to all the people out there that are actually trying to do that, it's so hard to do because they just don't get it. Well, I'm producing. Why does it matter how I produce it? I'm producing. Yeah. And they sort of have a point, but we also have to just continue to hammer home that the how matters.
Absolutely. And it goes back to that book, I think like 2002, the Patrick Lencioni, Five Dysfunctions of a Team.
Oh, yes.
If you have that individual contributor, they're only focused on them and their results and really what needs to be happening in terms of delivering on your organizational goals and objectives and actions. It has like, you have a team for a reason, and how is that person helping that team be successful? And if that's not part of their focus, then they're going off and doing their own thing in order to achieve their own results and do their own thing, but they're leaving a wake.
Yes.
That's not necessarily moving the team, the organizational goals forward. You know, that teamwork becomes the organization's advantage, really.
Yes, absolutely. When they come to you and they want you to solve their problem, when do you step in? When do you sort of say, sorry?
I think I always try and approach it from a very supportive place. In terms of if it's not me, like if it is that performance management piece, then I try and explain it to them in such a way that they can understand why it doesn't make sense to bring me in. The team needs to see them as their leader dealing with this challenge. Bring me in could actually have the potential of making that situation, that dynamic actually even worse, because they're not seeing their leader handle it. It changes how that team feels about their leader when the leader's actually willing to step in and deal with a challenging situation. So when they try and outsource it to me, I really try and help them understand that it is not in their benefit in terms of their relationship with their team to have somebody else come in and deal with that I'm there to support them. I'm there to help them plan how they might want to talk about it, offer to have a conversation with them and the HR consultant so that they feel supported, but that they do need to be the ones to go in and do that and have that conversation. The team wants to know that their leader will deal with challenging situations and that they will hold people accountable. And that actually goes such a long way in terms of creating and increasing engagement on the team. And they feel their leader being willing to do that.
And when you have that conversation with them, do you find, what's their reaction? Do you find them they generally nod, the painful nod, oh, you're right? Or are they angry? And how can we get them, in any case, to the painful nod of accepting the responsibility?
Most often, I think I get the painful nod of, damn, you're right. Sorry to swear.
Oh, that's not really swearing. She'll get it anyway.
I do think that through the process of the conversation, the discovery, the questions that I ask them, and then really sharing with them about their role and responsibility as a leader in supporting their team and developing their team, and that this is part of it. I think for the most part, it does really land. I've not had someone be angry with me about it. Whether they actually proceed and deal with it is a different story.
Yes.
I've not had people be angry about it. There is that acceptance and realization. And then, how can I support you? And And most times I think they will go and have those hard conversations, right? It is uncomfortable to give somebody feedback, especially in that situation where it's not necessarily the underperformer, but the high performer.
Yeah.
It is hard.
What skills are you, when you're having these conversations with these leaders, how do you approach the conversation such that they can, hear what you're saying? There's skills to this.
I have a lot of compassion for leaders. I've done leadership roles, and it is so hard.
Amen.
It is so hard. It's like, I don't know, right up there with parenting or something. It's one of the hardest things to do. And I think what also happens is we get promoted into leadership roles because we're really good at the task. We're good at the delivery. We're good at knowing what the answer is or the possible solution is. And as we move up in leadership, unless there's internal supports or internal motivation around leadership development and developing these skills, they don't necessarily come naturally to us. And so I really do want to come alongside them, want to support them as much as I can. And that's why I'm always willing to look at, do you want to role play this with me? Like, if, have this conversation with me, help you find the words, or do that with your HR consultant, right? If there's process or legal aspects to it that need to be taken into consideration, then certainly, bring those experts in, those folks in. Otherwise, I really want to come alongside and support, because it is so hard, and not everybody has the opportunity through internal programs or even funding to go to external leadership programs to really develop those skills. And so I get it. I get why it's hard.
I love the role play example, but I've never actually offered to role play with them, maybe because I'm just fundamentally not a very good actor. But I might do that next time.
I think just the practice, right? I think the thing is that, as a leader, my comfort level with conflict will show up in my behaviors. And so if I'm not comfortable with conflict, I'm going to avoid it. Stepping into those areas of discomfort and conflict as a leader is actually a requirement.
Yeah, sadly.
And it's sad and it's hard. And if I'm also leaning towards avoidance with conflict, I'm not necessarily going to be seeking out opportunities to engage with that, to build more comfort with it, to get more practice at it. And so I've been thinking about, as a leader, where are there opportunities for me to take baby steps? Where can I even just lean in and maybe offer some constructive feedback in the moment that's small, but that it's still bite-sized, where I start to get more practice, right? These things are skills. They are learnable, and what is required is practice.
I like that idea around the bite-sized pieces and just the baby steps. Really does. There really are opportunities, and if you do it in the moment, it doesn't feel so bad, and it feels like a baby step. Okay, so I swear everyone in HR has this problem where the leaders want us to do the things that they should be doing because they don't like it. They are conflict adverse, whatever the reason. Why do you think so many of us actually end up doing the work?
It's a good question, and I think it's a tough question. I think when I've seen it, I think sometimes it can be a culture, like an organizational culture, where that responsiveness, or sometimes even reactivity, is rewarded, is part of the culture. That kind of come in, firefight, respond, react, get it done quick, move on, can be part of the culture. And so because we're part of that, we're in it.
Yeah.
We get caught up in it and feel like that's an expectation of us. Versus being able to pause and say, is this mine?
Mm-hmm.
If it's not mine, how can I support? Whose is it?
Mm-hmm.
And then what role might I have in that? How again, from my perspective, I really want to come alongside and support.
Mm-hmm.
And so when is that perhaps a more appropriate response versus coming in and doing for? As the expert, it's also hard, I think, because I see myself as the expert. I'm feeling like I might be getting a little bit of my sense of thinking of David Brock's model, the SCARF model, and status.
Yes.
I might be getting some of my, like, I'm feeling rewarded for my competency. I'm feeling rewarded for the skills and my expertise. And so I feel good being able to come and do this for you, when our role and what might better serve the situation is to actually support the leader to do it themselves. So it's that teach a person to fish, right? Versus giving them the fish. It's like, if I continue to come in and do this for you, you will always be reliant on me. Mm-hmm. And if I actually support you in doing this, what I'm actually then doing is helping you build your skill and capacity to do it without me. And then you can actually really bring me in when it is the really hard and complex stuff that my expertise is actually even more valuable for you then, rather than perhaps some of these day-to-day routine, I guess. I'm not sure that.
Well, they're just really, it's almost normal. Like these are common. There we go. Common.
Yeah.
So final question here. There are a lot of us in HR who want to step in. You know, you talk a little bit about it playing to our egos. You didn't use those words, but I will. But if we're going to step in and be that partner rather than doing it for them, what skills should we be trying to develop so that we're good at that? What skills are you good at that make you good at this?
Well, thank you. And I think I pull on Peter Block's Flawless Consulting. His work, again, it's ages old, but it is a classic, and it's helpful in describing the distinction between like expert and pair of hands and partnership. And that, I think, can be helpful or useful for somebody. I think the other piece is coaching. Just really often the foundation of many coaching programs is holding the person capable. And so trusting that while it is uncomfortable for them and they may do it less than willingly, it really is in my best interest as a consultant to really support them and have them have a win and feel like they are capable of doing it and doing the hard thing, whatever the hard thing is, that they're capable of doing that and they have the skill and capability and competency to do it. And again, it's about the practice. And so my perspective is always around building them, building their capability, building their competency.
Yeah.
So that I'm really being brought in when they can really maximize my skill and competency. That actually isn't something that could or necessarily should be part of their role as a leader.
Thanks, Pam. I really love that. And I especially love the part about role clarity and teamwork being a red flag and a clue that we need to be asking more questions, not leaping in to do that role clarity exercise or teamwork exercise. However, I've reached the end of this episode. Can't talk anymore. I did another episode about the role of managers in retention, and a link to that's right here. Thanks for watching out there, and we'll see you next time.